in your opinion, what makes an outstanding product person?
So for an individual contributor, generally product is a well-rounded set of skills, right? We need people that are very good at communication, that have a lot of technical background, technical knowledge, able to understand quickly, right? How structure work, how product are structured, how the services work between each other. We need people that are very data driven. We need people that know how to do market research, know how to talk to customers. So generally, there's a very broad set of skills, right?
In today's episode, I speak with Julie Martin, head of product at Stashaway. Julie started her career in investment banking, moved to product in a fashion company, and now heads a team building investment products at a Robowealth FinTech. We cover her story on how she entered the fintech market coming from fashion, transitioning from a PM solo contributor to a head of department, the customer pain points Stashaway is solving for in the investments journey, how to build an outcome-driven product culture, diversity in fintech, and how regulators can improve to facilitate innovation in fintech. Hello, Julie. I'm super excited about this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Monica. Thanks for having me. Excited to have a discussion also.
Yes, the pleasure is mine. Okay, so this is my go-to question for everyone at the beginning. What has been the role of purpose in your life and in business?
It's very interesting that you ask about purpose because last year I was the end of my 20s and it was a reflection year for me asking myself. So I spent a lot of time asking myself about purpose. And I almost panicked at some point. I was like, what's my purpose? I don't have a purpose. I don't know what I'm supposed to do later. You know, it's like the end of a decade and you're like, wow, I've done a lot of things and I'm not sure about, where I'm going, but I do enjoy what I'm doing and the process.
Yeah.
So if you ask me the question, what I like to do and what I'm driven to do is to make an impact in some sort. So in terms of career, for instance, I always wanted at some point to do my own company, maybe one day, or like help others, launching their companies. In the personal life, I don't know, but I also think it's I want to make things that have an impact and that I enjoy doing. I enjoy the process of doing things. So this is
Yes.
how I go around the question, what's my purpose? Because I'm still looking for it on some aspect. Like I've spent time thinking about, what I want to do, how do I make an impact, but I enjoy the process.
Awesome. And then how did you, I like that because like our purpose doesn't have to be like, oh, like I am here to change the world and help the children not ever be hungry ever again in their lives. It can be as simple as I want to have impact. That's it, broad. How did you bring that to life at work? Like, does it help you, motivate you?
Yeah, so at work, when I started my career, I wanted to do my own company, VC, helping other company growth. And I went to other way that I think would be good for me to acquire the skill set so that later I could, also help others, right? And then I discovered product, love product. And when I look into product, right, it's about empathy, understanding the user, solving user issues. So depending on impact goes in every day, when you choose your company, you align with the value, you know what you're doing, you know what user problem you're solving. You're also, so now as a manager, also impact is also helping others, right? Coaching, trying to, help other PMs progressing in their career. So it's also another type of impact, not directly on the product, but seeing it on people. So that's how I see the impact, every day.
Cool. Yeah, I've noticed in my career when I'm engaged is when I see the impact of what I'm doing. When I'm like not engaged at work, it's like I've kind of somehow disconnected with either the impact I'm doing or the company mission. So it's like, for me, it is important to feel that I'm having impact, right? Otherwise, I'm like, well, otherwise I just go home and do nothing.
Yeah. So it's important to feel. Yeah, no, I was thinking it's important to feel aligned, with the company, the product you're solving, to have something that, drives you towards this.
Exactly. So how you have a very interesting career trajectory. You've had like VC, you have like fashion, you have fintech. How did you end up in product and then fintech Stashaway?
It's a very good question. So if you ask me, during my studies, I also study a lot of different things. I have a bachelor in mathematics, one in political sciences, and I went into finance. I never heard about
Mm.
product at the time. I didn't know what product was. What I slowly discovered though is I like tech. I knew I like, innovation and those middles and working with startups, and I discovered venture capital. So I actually started during my studies, took a break and started to work in a VC in Paris. And this was is super interesting for me. We were talking to a lot of founders and seeing a lot of business models. So after this, I decided to go on the startup side because I was thinking, okay, let's go on the other side of the wall and see how it is also. That was actually my first experience in Singapore in a startup backed by Rocket Internet. It was quite intense. We launched it and I was head of ops at the time. I created the whole ops function. And
Hmm.
this is the first time that I had direct hands-on, I was talking to clients and at the same time we had a product and the team was in Berlin because this is the recruit model and I was very frustrated by the product. And this is where I realized, oh, I actually would like to be on the product side and help to solve those problems that customers, call me every
Hmm.
day to talk about. So that's how I discovered product. And after
That's
this, I had
cool.
a first experience in product in Berlin, and yeah, I had to confirm that. Well, that's a very cool job. Mm.
So what I'm very curious to know is, of course, well, you had some product experience in a fashion brand, and then you end up moving to Stashaway, that it's an investments company. How did you go about the interview process where you're like, I don't have the specific experience, but you did leverage an experience that you had before and your degrees? Like, what was your thinking process? Because many people are kind of like trying to move from other industries into fintech, and they are like, how do I go about that interview?
It's a good question, actually. So I started my career also in investment banking because after a small product experience,
Hmm.
I still wanted to do VC in the long term. So did a bit
Yes.
of investment banking. So I spent a lot of time on the financial side. I have a degree in finance. So I think that's why Stashaway contacted me. They probably saw, okay, product and finance. But before that, before Love Bonito and fashion, my only experience in fintech was on the B2B side and it was on the API product, building software for financial market participants. So a bit different, right? I wasn't on the other side of the what we call the Chinese wall. I wasn't on the wealth management side. So a
Hmm.
bit of an imposter syndrome for me when they contacted me. I was like, okay, I like the product. I've been using similar product in London. I know it solves, big customer problems. It's interesting, but I wasn't, and at the time I was really starting to specialize. I was spending a lot of time in e-commerce, so I knew a lot about the e-commerce landscape, but not a lot about the fintech landscape. So I remember, okay, first interview, HR, I mean, it was okay. Then my second interview was with the product team at the time. Uh, on the product side it was okay, processes, etc. But on the when they started to ask about their product, the investment product, I had to be a bit honest there because it also all went in the same week. I didn't have time. I was finishing very late at work the same week. I didn't have
Yeah.
time to check the product as much. So I had to be very honest, saying, I don't know all the investment product yet, but I know the problem you're solving, and if you give me a chance to go to the next step, I can catch up on it. This I was confident, I needed to just take a bit of time. So I managed to pass that second round, but I know it was a bit just, and they told me, you should look at the product a bit more, right? The investment product, the fund, the strategies, what you think about it, and the role I was being interviewed for was kind of senior PM, but on the for investment product, right? To develop new investment products. So very specialized on that core sector. It was not about the growth side that I was doing at Love Bonito. So during this weekend, it was a case study. I spent probably 15 to 20 hours
Yes.
reading, looking at all the companies on the market. Also, I had a lot of friends in fintech. I called. asking, what do they think about the product, blah, 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 or even people from every day, right? Would you use Stashaway? Yes, no, why not? And yeah, I was able to do the case. And then it's more than when I got the offer, I decided to take on the challenge, but I spent hours catching up on
Preparing.
the landscape and some of the financial notions. So it was quite a good, exciting challenge for me.
Yes, well done.
Mm.
And then building on case studies, I think many PMs fear the case study interview because exactly you're proposing something about something that you don't know about like as much as your job, right? So it's like it takes time. How did you, of course, like to prepare for the case study, like you immersed yourself in market research, you spoke with customers. I love that it's like I spoke with the actual customers, you started using these.
Yeah.
But then how did you go about the case study? It's like the how long you keep it, how short you keep it, like what's your mindset?
So I'm generally more on the short side. So I think I did the classic slides trying to keep it short, bullet points, and very clear and visual because they're evaluating you not just on the content, right? They know you're not, insider from the company, you might not know as well, but they're also evaluating you on how you present it, right? What has been the different steps you've gone through? What is your structure? So I think this is important, right? If you're not as comfortable on the content, and even if you have PM experience from another sector, e-commerce or other, you can still reuse the frameworks you have learned. You can reuse your, communication skills, and this is what they're going to look at. I would say the fact that if you can talk to potential customers, record a few testimonials, do some market research, add some numbers, also, show that you're data driven, even if you don't have internal data, try to find data outside. It really makes a difference. So you don't need 40 pages, but I mean, depending on the company, I would hate to have to read 40 pages case to decision of candidates who interview, but it needs to be very concise, clear, and, data backed, just show that you did the extra steps there, and not
Awesome.
just thinking about the question and answering.
Yes, I love that. And then basically building on your career. Like, okay, you nailed the interview, you've been a few years in Stashaway, and now you're head of product in Stashaway. How does your day to day change when you go from being a PM and then now managing all the PMs? And what's the challenge about managing PMs?
It's quite different. It was a bit gradual for me. I remember there was a sort of transition steps where, okay, the investment product we really doubled down. So it was expanding. I went from having one squad to four squad at some point even. Then we restructured things
Mhm.
a bit. So at some point I hired two PMs and I was also doing individual PMs on two other squad at the same time. So that was a bit of a crazy time. And then it transitioned to fully not being an IC anymore, but managing all the PMs. So it was quite gradual, and but still quite fast, right? Everything happened in I guess it's been almost 2 years now, so in less than
Mhm.
2 years. So what changed is that as a PM individual contributor, it's easier to know what are the expectation from you, right? You have your OKRs, you can launch your product, everything is measurable. It's you know your product is successful. No, you're very comfortable, working with your squad, stakeholders. I was very comfortable in as an IC. It's very interesting, but
Yeah.
so when you start to be on the manager side, it's different, right? You have to learn. It's a bit difficult at the beginning because the product sometimes a bit your babies. You have to learn how to step back,
Go.
not not go directly. You're not the one developing that product, right? So you need to step back and coach, right? The PMs. In doing this, and sometimes you're very tempted to give a solution, and that's what you do actually naturally at the beginning. You're very tempted to do things by yourself because you're like, okay, it would be maybe more efficient if I do things by myself, but it's not sustainable in the long term if you want to grow and have multiple squads. So that was the difficult part for me, right? Learning to slowly step back, you know, not I could join some of the calls without, speaking, listening, coaching behind. It's still something that I'm learning, every day. So stepping back and also, no matter what you do, I think the impact is less direct, right? Than when you work directly on
Visible.
a product. And exactly. So it takes time, right? It's like you kind of planting seeds and you watch them grow, and it takes, I'm a very fast person. I like fast results and things. So when there is somebody between you and the product, and you a people. So it's not a person. It's not a machine. That was challenging for me.
Yes. And I think every PM, because many people are like, oh, I'm a senior PM, and then I move into a
Mm.
group PM or a head kind of role. And exactly, everyone, it's like, oh, I want that. I want that. It's career progression. But it's not the same. It's not the same as
Yeah,
being a PM. And it's different
yeah,
skill set. And you may be like, hey, do I want to be an individual contributor, or do I like coaching and managing people and growing people and being in the background rather
mm,
than being the one leading
yeah.
the doing?
Because you can be an amazing senior PM and then, struggling as a manager. It's quite different, actually.
Yes, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you for that. Your career has been quite exciting. So as we move like away from your career as such, let's talk a little bit about Stashaway. Because we've already like been talking about Stashaway without even saying what it is. So tell me, what does Stashaway do? I use your product, by the way, like for many years, and I love it,
Oh,
and so I'm a
good.
big fan of Stashaway. Yeah, yeah. So it's like I love Stashaway.
So Stashaway is a digital investment app that helps, you and me, retail investors, right? You don't need to be extra accredited investors to invest, right? And it's to invest in a very simple way. So we're what we call kind of a robo advisor, a bit of categories where, you go on the app, even if you don't have a lot of financial knowledge. We ask you a few questions about, your assets, your risk preference, and then we create a portfolio, or we have a few range of portfolios with a risk that is adapted to your profile. So that's how it started. Now we've been diversifying a bit investment product offerings. So it's everything around wealth management and also managing your money. So we also do cash management. So you can earn, higher returns compared to what you have, in a bank. You have a different range of investment products. We also grew and extended the product a bit with our users. So some users started to want to personalize the product, right? It was not just about,
Mm,
okay, I put the money and you take care of it, but it's like, oh, it's been a couple of years, right? I'm actually interested. I would like to invest a bit more in this sector as a class. So we also developed solution with our flex portfolios for people to select some of the sectors or things they would be interested in. So it's all about wealth management in a very measured, simple ways. We have also an academy. We give classes about personal wealth um, and how to manage your money over the long term. So the that's I think the main difference compared to trading or brokers. It's not about short-term profits. It's about really seeing the long term and building your wealth and achieving your goals. Mm.
yes, and I think you're spot on that it's the academy. The academy is what differentiates you in it's not the investment. Of course, you have differentiation points when it comes to the investment product as such, but I guess as a brand, like you're bringing your mission to life when it comes to the academy. It's not just hey, let's launch another investment product. It's the academy ensures that you're bringing customers with you in the journey and that they are educated, right, making the right decisions rather than just boom, put your money there and then forget.
Yeah, exactly. So so the difference with e-commerce, for instance, is like e-commerce is, it's not your long-term wealth. It's less, it's just buying clothes, right? So you can optimize, sell clothes, and if you want to optimize with us, right, we're not going to sell or, highlight a product to highlight a product, right? We have to be cautious about the risk that the client can take, right? We have to be cautious about their background, their preferences. We have to make sure they're educated. If, just asking to deposit for depositing is not it's not very useful, but we educate about DCA, right? Dollar cost averaging and the importance of saving money a bit every month and investing it. So it's more thoughtful, I think, as an industry. I mean, the wealth management side, we need to be very cautious, and at Stashaway, it's really how we think about in terms of product development. So everything needs to be clear, simple. We need to explain. We need to be transparent, and it's not about making a big revenue number visible in the app, but it's also about showing the risk, right? So actually, we are very, very risk driven, and being transparent about it for users.
Yes. And I love that. I think like your product principle, it's very clear that it's like, hey, be transparent, but even bigger than that, it's like be thoughtful. Be thoughtful
Yes.
about the journey end to end. Yeah, I like that thinking. So have you, well, Stashaway has been around for maybe 5 years or so. And I'm assuming as a startup now scale up, it was not always the same, right? Like when you start, it's different. But then, and the academy was introduced later in the journey, right? Have you guys noticed any difference on customer engagement, customer behavior once you introduced the education piece, or has it had a major impact?
It made an impact, unfortunately not for all customers. So it's usually we see a correlation. It's hard to find a causality, right, between the more I would say sticky customer, right, with DC, etc., and the fact that they read the academies and potentially see some of the modules, or just reading the market commentaries, right, that we send every month to explain, what's happening in the markets, or the weekly bursts also that we have. So there is a correlation. Sometimes it's hard to, between correlation and causality is hard to see, but definitely helps. And we do get some customers that, give us some feedback and thanks for, sharing the weekly buzz, right? Like a few bullet points every week on what's happening on the market. That's how I keep my market knowledge up to date, right? I don't have time to read, FT or others every day, but I do this, or some other customers. I remember when we were doing user interviews to develop new investment product, some of the customers still remember, oh yeah, I remember I was in this webinar with your chief investment officer and I was very well explained and I really liked it. And so they do remember this touch and the information shared behind. It's not, just a medium to invest.
Awesome. Congrats, because I genuinely like the product. Like I use it a lot. And I think you guys have done a good job in exactly crafting the customer journey and the customer experience end to end, rather than just having investment products. You're looking at the journey, which I really like. That's why I was like, yeah, we need to speak with Julie because this is like a product that is having impact in people's lives, right? So, and that's the differentiator. Probably it's being thoughtful. It's as simple as that. So we've been talking about customers touching here and there. Can you explain like what are the top pain points of customers within the retail investments world?
Yes, so for us, because there are many, many pain points, but the one we're looking at and we're addressing, so generally one is it's difficult to invest, right? You need time and knowledge, right? So, and knowledge comes with time also. So if you want to invest and do your investment yourself, your portfolio, first of all, you need time to actively manage it. And then you need the knowledge, right? So you need to, read a lot and look at the right stocks, etc. So it's very time consuming, and some people, right, prefer to have other hobbies, right, or other things in life than spending time on managing their money. So that's a major pain point we address by being very user friendly for like passive investing. So really, you can set up your automation. You can even set up, direct debit from your bank account every month to, let's say, your cash management portfolio, and then set up DCA from all your other portfolios. Once you set this up, you can just, relax and look at it and maybe review your investments every quarter or something like this. So it's really made for users who want to save time, right? Who don't have time to spend on investing. So that's a pain point. Another pain point is the cost. So investing actually has a lot of hidden costs in some of the platform. In traditional banks, usually the management fees have been higher. So we really came And that's how we kind of disrupted at the beginning. Like it's a model that we've seen a lot in the UK, in Europe, in the US, but in
Yes, that's what I
Singapore,
was going to
it,
say.
it was it was the
Yeah.
first one, right? To be able to invest just in a in an app, but and really see what fees you're paying and being transparent about it and comparing
Yes.
to banks, etc. So it was, I think, at the beginning was really a pain point to solve. No, it's starting to be quite wide on the market. You have a lot of investment platforms. The costs are different depending on the platform, but I don't think it's as much of a pain point that it was 5 years ago. But it's still important, right, to make sure you're not overpaying, right, for this. Uh, and the other pain point is, I guess, usability, right? Even if you have the knowledge or, you're okay with the fees, a lot of platforms are a bit more old or even not on your phone on the market. So it's not, yeah, the UI UX part is quite important actually, right? Uh, we're making it easy to invest with like a very clear and like simple interface explaining the different steps, saying where your money is. So this is also something, when we talk to clients, something they love about Stashaway, right? It's easy compared to, I don't know, like calling your bankers. In Singapore, we even do, for instance, private markets for accredited
Mhm.
investors, so venture capital, PVC, private equity and venture capital investing. So we're making it easy, right, with like low minimums, and it's more accessible. So it's much easier. So that's another pain point. So yeah, the time, the
Yes.
cost, and easy. I would say those are the three main pain points we're trying to solve. Mm.
Yes, and that makes sense as the wealth management industry has evolved as such, because like you say, let's say 7 8 years ago when I was in the UK, we started to see the first Robowealths, maybe like the first investment products, let's say,
Yeah,
the new apps. But then maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago or 10 years ago, it was the first generation. But then maybe 8 years ago, the products that I used to use in the UK, they were starting to be very similar to what Stashaway is doing now. So it's been a journey. It's not a, hey, like upfront, we're solving all these problems, but the industry
yeah,
as such has gone through a journey. And I'm very pleased to see how, as an industry, we've kind of started to grow. And now it's
progress. Yeah,
like normal across all geographies that you have like a good investment product for the day-to-day person that 15 years ago you could not invest because the cost was too high, the
yeah.
initial capital requirement was too high, and you were just like, cannot. And now it's like everybody has access. So I think we've made a massive progress and impact as an industry when it comes to investments. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
So moving into inclusion. So within the financial well-being world, we know that there's differences between men and women, especially when it comes to investments. The men portion of the population are more likely to invest rather than women. There's higher penetration on investments when it comes to men. Do you guys see similar behavior in Stashaway? And if yes, is there something that you do about it, or you're just like going with the inertia of the product as such?
So I joined Stashaway a couple of years ago, and when I joined, I actually they did a lot of education on the women's side, and we have no more than they already had. So I think it's been the same since a couple of years. More than 40% of female investors. So it's pretty balanced actually on
Awesome.
the platform. I don't think it started this way. It came with a lot of additional education and awareness we've done, for women in investing. We've done additional conferences, webinars, education. We had a full series in academies for women and explain, how to invest. And so now we're actually pretty happy to see that it's balanced in terms of percentage of users. Mm.
Cool. And how about talking about diversity and inclusion? Of course, like the topic of the year, the decade. What are your thoughts about women in fintech and women in product management as such? How do we make it better for
So
us?
women in fintech, I think product management, I would say it's getting a bit more balance as an industry, right? But if you look at the junior side, yes, the older you get, then I think you have more seniors it's less balance on the senior side. But it's, I think, getting better as an industry because people realize, to build product, right, you need uh, diversity, right? You need diverse team, you need, diverse ideas and backgrounds to build products that also address, different problems. So I think it's getting better, but it's one way is not to forget about it, right, when you hire. Let's say for me, right, if I want to hire a PM, I know I have already more male PMs than female PMs in my team. Uh, and in fintech, it's easy to think, oh, I would like somebody that have a bit of fintech knowledge and investment background. And then when you look at finance, it's very, very male dominated. So naturally, it could be, we would have probably more candidates, right, that are males. That's something we have to keep in mind, right? Not to uh, not to reproduce so that fintech doesn't become like finance and
Yes.
stay a bit more diversified. So I think it's important because so the user problem we're talking about or the education, the academy, right? It's possible if you have a diverse team and you have very different backgrounds and opinions to build that product. This is what makes the product rich and and good, right? If you have different opinions and different backgrounds in your team. So I would say it's getting better generally on the product side, but in fintech, because a lot of, people from finance going to fintech and people from tech also, so tech in general is not super diverse. We have to be cautious when building companies that we keep a diverse set of skills and experiences. So it can be about genders, but other things also about previous
Yeah, backgrounds.
experiences and
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and backgrounds. Yeah. So gender
Yes.
is one thing, but generally the diversity side is super important. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And then now talking about diversity and hiring teams. In your opinion, what makes an outstanding product person?
So for an individual contributor, generally product is a well-rounded set of skills, right? We need people that are very good at communication, that have a lot of technical background, technical knowledge, able to understand quickly, right? How structure work, how product are structure, how the services work between each other. We need people that are very data driven. We need people that know how to do market research, know how to talk to customers. So generally, there is a very broad set of skills, right? And so it's a bit difficult to say, it depends on what type of skills you're missing in the team and what you want to look for, right? So maybe sometimes you're looking for somebody with more data background because, you think it's complementary to the rest of the team. And sometimes you can look for with somebody with more technical background because you're like, okay, I have a lot of, PMs going from the business side. For that position, we need somebody with a more technical background. So depending on the roles, I don't always look for the same thing. But in terms of similar traits, right, we want people that are, of course, that have a lot of empathies, right? I think customer first, right? Not
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, I'm going to solve the problem that internally they're asking me to solve, right? It's more about being curious, right? Trying to go and look at the data and find some customer problem to solve. So empathy and being very proactive, right? So it's not like PMs that don't just do what they're supposed to do, but
There.
already know how to look the next 3 months, 6 months. Prepare the backlog IDs. They see that we're not doing some reporting well internally. We're not looking at this data, right? Start a new process for this, etc. So I want very, very and the more senior the PMs are, the more the expectation are higher, right? So it's people to be very proactive in problem solving, in looking at the data, finding new issues, and thinking forward. Yeah.
Yes. I like that the expectation changes as you progress in your career because probably if you look at the what's out there in internet and LinkedIn, there's a lot of product narrative. Oh, you need to have all these skills. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't have all of that. And it's like, no, it depends on where you are in your career. You start developing those skills, and then basically the expectation will change. And then, like you said, that I totally love this. You don't need to be an expert in all areas of product
We
development.
can't.
You cannot, exactly. You cannot. And then, especially for people looking for jobs or looking for a career move, it's more of understanding what's your strength and where it's your complementary type of team. Because then you're like, for example, like you were saying, maybe you need someone more technical. And then it's, hey, you pair up the technical person in the team. Well, the skills of someone more technical with the skills of someone more data driven, with the skills of someone more like market user research needed. And then you have a very strong team
Yeah.
rather than just one expert
Yeah.
on everything, because that's not possible.
For a long time we were thinking, okay, how do we stay agile, right, on the one part, and the other part is how do we also make an impact and measure this. So what we do is, I think like a lot of company we're using OKRs, right? So twice a year we set up targets for the team, company OKRs, product OKRs, and then we make sure that all the different teams and squads that we have on the product side have initiative, right, that fall under each of these OKRs, right? So we've been improving a lot over the past couple of years on this one, dashboard. So we have a product OKR dashboard in Looker that everyone can look at. We have, monthly update, and we look at every initiative we do and how they can impact those OKRs. So this is to, how to make sure they have an impact. But the other part is how do we keep it a bit more agile, right? We don't wait 5 months, 6 months, right, to launch a product
Yes.
and then 2 months of measuring data behind to say, oh, okay, maybe this doesn't have the expected impact. This is very long, very risky. We're also in a time where we need to be very, very thoughtful about all the resources we have and really prioritize things that make an impact. So more and more we're trying to look into, okay, we've been breaking down our features, we have MVPs, right? How do we even review our MVPs in the sequence of different sprints that lead to launching that MVP, so that the first part we do help to de-risk the rest, right? And it's something we're still doing, right? Still learning, trying new processes. We actually recently had a project offsite in KL, right, where we were discussing about that, right, and try to really challenge our. We took 2 or 3 of our upcoming projects, and some of them were like a month and a half to up to 3-4 months, right, or 5 months for one. We were like, okay, we know we want to do it. It's in the roadmap. We know that there is an impact, but how do we go about it, right? How can we split? Can we start in, right? Do we need to, let's say you want to redo your onboarding flow, right? Do we have to redo everything together? Can you start with some piece, measure it, and, or maybe while you do a lot of incremental changes, keep like a control group. So it's something we're really, really looking into. So we've been really improving on the OKR, the tracking, we're all aligned now on what we want to improve as a product team. But no, we're improving on the agile side. We're trying to relook at some of the projects we've done in the past, or some of the projects we already had on the roadmap, and think about, okay, what happens if, let's say, there is a compliance things coming in the middle of project, I have to stop and do something else. Am I happy with
Yes.
what I have delivered up to so far, right? Because I remember when I joined, a few times, right, we had to stop project after months of working on it, and it still wasn't deliverable, right? So we're really looking more into this approach, and it's kind of between the moment you've done your roadmap, you prioritize, you have a high level, you have your MVP, you have a high level idea of the scope. It's a step back that we're trying to do, and realignment with the dev and with the squads, right, between PMs and the squads, to think about, okay, it's there, it's coming, it looked like a 3 month shock in the roadmap. What do we do first, right? What makes sense? What is there something we need to do, like a POC, for instance, proof of concept, right, to try to see, maybe it doesn't even work, the integration with this vendor. Maybe we can solve this first, and then we're confident and we can go with the rest. If the first part doesn't work, and we stop the project. So it's something we're still in the middle of improving, but it's very, very exciting to look at. So because we still spend a lot of time on mapping and prioritizing things, but now we're trying to add that extra steps to make sure we're keeping things agile, and we measure what we do, and we don't we don't wait 6 months before seeing the results
Any
of
results and
something.
impact,
Yeah.
yes. And it's a journey, at least from my
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
I can say, hey, it's a journey. You don't get it right like straight away.
Mm.
It's an evolution,
Exactly.
as with any product development process. Julie, it's been an amazing pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for all your wisdom. Where can we find you, and where can we find more about Stashaway?
You can find me on LinkedIn, I guess, or in Singapore. I'm based in Singapore. If you want to go for a coffee, if you come to Singapore, let me know. I also go to, we are part of the team in Kuala Lumpur, so I come to Kuala Lumpur time to times. And Stashaway, so you can learn more about Stashaway at stashaway.com, but I think the best way to learn more about it is go into App Store, download the Stashaway app, and have a look and explore, this academy models, some of the products, and send me feedback on the product.
Yes.
Because I love to receive feedback.
Yes. Cool. Thank you, Julie. Just before we go, very last question. If you could change one thing in fintech to make fintech better and have positive impact to customers, staff, and investors, what could it be?
Okay.
One thing.
It's yes, it's difficult.
I know.
One of the it's a difficult one because you can't you can't change it. It's also supposed to make fintech easier, but one of the major pain points to be an entrepreneur in fintech or start a business in fintech or start innovating is regulation. So I wouldn't say let's take out the regulation because it's also super important, but it would be interesting to have more flexible structure, right, to develop new products in different countries, or from the different, or maybe something that is more universal depending on the region, so that we don't have to talk to different regulators in different regions. I think that's a major pain point for innovation and entrepreneurship. On the other side, it's super important, right?
Needed.
It's money, it's needed. We need to do KYC. It's very important. So I think there is potentially a lot of innovation that can be done in the regulation side also.
I like that, because then what you're saying is how do we disrupt the regulatory framework in such a way that it continues to do its job, because it has a very important job.
Yeah.
And at the same time enables innovation and makes it easier for financial institutions to navigate what is it that's allowed, what's not allowed, and how we can think different, provide different solutions while still being compliant. So that's a big question for the industry, Julie.
Yeah.
Very good question. Thank you. Yeah.
Not an easy one to solve.
No, it's not an easy one, but I like it. That's a big question that we need to start
I'm
thinking
sure
of.
a lot of people are looking at it. So
Yes, I'm sure they are. Awesome. Julie, thank you so much for your time, and speak very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.